Everybody, Chris and Lumen here, and this is my second video today. I did another one earlier, but it was the fact that I did that one earlier and then scrapped it that's leading to this one. Sometimes when you start to get the beginnings of like a bigger understanding, especially when it comes to levels that like most people aren't even delving into yet. Sophia does not just come out and tell you. Again, when you're on the right track, she keeps leaving clues. And when that is happening, the breadcrumbs that preceded it usually come in pretty handy. So I noticed something today, and it has to do with stuff we've talked about in the last few videos, in which figuring out that the root of evil is the knowledge of evil. Like this entire realm, this entire game, its core principle for like why the world is. Now, granted, it might be metaphor, it might just be the story that we're given, the backstory that we're given, but everything in the story starts with the Garden of Eden and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's when everything goes haywire. That's when everybody gets kicked out of paradise. And again, like go back a couple videos, it doesn't matter if it's the Adam Eve story or the more loosely based Lucifer story. Once evil's introduced, it's like, boom, you're kicked out of the good spot. And I noticed something when I was doing this video earlier. And what the video was about originally was the first thing that I saw after my time was up and I got online this morning, see what was happening, if we'd been invaded by aliens or anything yet, which there are an awful lot of sightings happening. That's interesting. But regardless, sometimes the first thing that you see is something that she's putting in front of you. Not unlike how a lot of people find this channel. Just one day, boom, this channel shows up in your feed. And like, what is this? She'll do the same thing sometimes with what notifications go in your phone, the first thing you see on social media, whatnot. So the first thing I saw today was on X, and it was a Cliff High post that kind of irritated me. Just because, like, and he was throwing out some wild idea about the woke mind virus and parasitic consciousness, and then he's like, they used to call this the archons and the demiurge, and that set off a whole big wave of stuff in the comments. And I'm like, oh my God, you just don't understand this stuff. So what I started to do was do a video about that, but then it was meant to go a different way, which it did. But I noticed something when I was filming it, and also after it was processed. Like, it was like, I don't want to do this video. I don't want to share this video, even though it's like, I have more clarity on this stuff, but something's telling me not to. So I just deleted it and sat with it for a bit, worked on some pendants, and it was just a little bit ago that it started to come to me, and I think this is rather interesting. So if you want to know more, don't go away.
I got you, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating.
So you could consider this one food for thought, something to mull over, because we got about, I might have like 1,500 subscribers, but I have about, on average, the number she's given me, 475 regulars. These are more of the hand-picked people that she brought here because you're figuring things out on a higher level. You're further along, even if you don't think you are. But sometimes you got to compare yourself to like where everybody else is at in the world. So this is something like this ties into the whole knowledge of good and evil thing being the main issue and the main code that we're trying to correct. And it goes like this. So even though I've been exposed to a lot more things through the hero's journey and stuff like that, the remedies that we've, without almost me noticing it so much, the solutions, the energetic solutions, the energy work, and all the things that we do with people lately, it like has all the correction codes in them without me having to tell everybody like everything that I know. And I'm starting to see why I was having this. It was almost subconscious. It was like this feeling when I was doing the video, and then when I was processing the video, like, don't do it. Don't, like, I don't want to do that. It was the same thing as like a lot of time with my other channel. It's like, I just don't want to do that. It's like, I don't want to do this video. And I'm like, why do I not want to do this video? And then I realized that you cannot. Okay, let me stop here. We should be at a level right now where you've got a bigger understanding of reality, of consciousness, and you should be at least partially on the path to kind of understanding that the world that you see is very subjective to you. No two people see the same things. And you should also, if you're intellectually honest, be able to determine that most of the bad stuff in the world that you know about, you don't actually ever see. It doesn't happen to you. If it happens to anybody, it's usually like one person removed from it, so to speak. But, you know, you could see all sorts of stories about bad things in the world happening, but like you've never seen it. You only know about it through the stories, and that populates your inner world. So I'm working this out live. So basically what I was attempting to do in correcting a lot of things was actually not only would have actually not only contributed to the problem, but made it worse. Now, why is that? Having a bunch of scattered ideas about things, that's one thing. I mean, that's not good. But if you become an expert in something, you're somewhat of an authority, and people are programmed to listen to authority. If you're teaching people about darker side stuff, you're inserting that into their reality. All the stuff, you know, I could see the contradictions that were in my last video that I tried to post, you know, about the knowledge of good and evil. And I even said a couple times, it was like, I feel good when I'm sharing the secrets that you don't have or that you haven't experienced yet, that are the good secrets. The stuff about, you know, connecting to the higher consciousness and having Sophia with you all the time and finding Lumen and all that stuff. Like, that's feel good stuff to share. And then if I try to go back to like where I started and explain the bad side of the world, then it actually affects me. It's like I start feeling, I can see it in the view screen when I'm filming it. I can tell that it's shifting my energy, and that is coming through the video. It's like, I don't like talking about this. And I think that's because we're speaking of it. It's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And what the world mainly does is share knowledge of evil. That's all it does. Take the news, for example. What knowledge of the news are they sharing with you 24/7? They're teaching you about evil. They're showing you about all the bad things that are going to happen or are happening or have happened, and the people that are bad and the bad things that they do. And it's bad, 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 bad. They do not ever show you anything good. And we make up our egos, our ego minds, our personality AIs are built on the knowledge that we have accumulated in life. In the mistake that a lot of people make, and maybe that's just part of the process, but this was one of my big gripes in the last video, especially when it comes to the pseudo-Gnostics, which are the people that don't know what the word gnosis actually means, and they treat stuff like the Nag Hammadi like the Bible, and they're learning things from books. And there are a ton of channels out there that only seem to farm the Gnostic material for more interesting bad guys. They tell you all day about the bad stuff. They don't ever bring her up. And she's literally the freaking central character in the whole book. Her and or her partner Christ. They don't want to talk about that. And not only that, I can show you my analytics. You can scroll through the videos and just look at the views. The more positive the message or the knowledge of the videos that I do, typically are going to get half the views of something that is darker or has the potential of looking darker. So if I talk about the end of the world is coming and the archons are going to eat your face and take you to hell, and I'm just making shit up. The aliens are going to harvest your freaking souls and put them in freaking computers, and if I did a video about that, it would explode, because the ego AIs are programmed to want to ingest that material. Anytime I do something that is the opposite of that, or I say the L word, I don't mean Lucifer, I mean love, divine love. That's going to get less views. The darker it is, the more evil it is, or the more evil that we talk about, the more people watch, the more people ingest. The better. And also other statistics I can show repeatedly is if I sneak a Benedict exorcism into a video, even if it looks like something most people would watch, that will cut the views. It's almost like they know it's there. It's crazy. But part of the problem is that we talk about it. What it say? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Maybe speak no evil doesn't just mean say evil things, but just talking about it at all. Sharing the knowledge of it spreads it. And not only that, like I said, the stories of the things that you heard, all these are horrible stories, this stuff is happening, but you've never seen it. How many human trafficking rings have you stumbled into? I mean, honestly, with your own two eyes. Or, pick a different horrible story from the world. Have you ever seen it? No, probably haven't. But we keep sharing this knowledge of evil with each other. And evil is stickier then good. It sticks in your head. You think about it. You want to dissect it. And then we think that and I ran into this in the hero's journey. That was actually one of her earlier lessons. It's like one of the big sticking points is in solving a problem is, what was it? How did she put it? It was like the trick in solving the problem is like you see something that you want to change. Now, the proper way to shift your reality is to freaking ignore what's wrong, don't speak of it, and put your focus on something else and speak of that. But what we tend to do is like, oh my gosh, I have a problem. Maybe I think my house is haunted or something like that. So then we laser focus on the problem because we got to study the problem. We got to dissect the problem. We got to figure the problem out. But we are now laser jetting freaking attention energy into the problem. And then it always expands. It always gets bigger. That was a tricky one. Like I said, that is like one of the older videos that we did. It's like every time you try to solve a problem, you focus on the problem, you give it all the energy, and your attention makes things bigger. Instead of seeing the problem as a symptom of going off course, we're like, oh, this problem's here. Now I got to solve it. You're using your magical manifestation eyes to make it bigger. So let's digest this for a sec. So basically what I'm finding is that I can create things knowing what the problem is and put the energetic solutions in there to fix it without having to info dump people with a more complex negative story about why it is, especially if it's intangible. Now, I can see where there would be some cases in which it's unavoidable and possibly beneficial, like, the adversary mind. Like, it's basically just the corrupted ego that's taken on a bigger scale. It's like all those negative thoughts in your head that's directed at you, like that's not you. And that's a good thing because you cannot be the thing that is being observed. I'm like, observe the thoughts. Are you choosing to have them? No, they're making me feel bad. Then that's not you, is it? That's useful. But we don't need to keep sharing the negative information. And that's all anyone ever does. That's all anyone wants to do. People just eat it up. And if you're eating it up, you're operating in ego because that's what it's designed to do. It powers itself by that energy, by scrolling the news feeds and looking at the terrible stories and watching the news and all the bad stuff. You're feeding it. That's why you have to fast from the world, is one of the big steps that pops her out if you've done all the prep work. You have to depower that. You have to shift the scales of balance. You have to quit feeding the constant, steady diet of negative information. Stop it and then gorge yourself on positive energy stuff. That tips the scales, it breaks her out. But we don't do that. And not only that, most people that have the ego minds that they haven't broken free from yet, that are overly negative, I mean, if it's really toxic, then you see videos where where somebody's teaching them about the good stuff, and it actually triggers them. It can make them mad. It can make them jealous. Make them envious. It can make them cringe. And you're not stopping and thinking, like, why is something good and beautiful making me feel bad? The knowledge, the story telling you that the root of everything is the knowledge of evil is huge. And I think it's still percolating down to me through the coffee filter of my consciousness, like how deep this goes and how much it means. It all exists because we know about it. give you an example that you can see with your eyes. Kids growing up, if you're a parent, you know, they're in Sophia land for the first, 2 or 3 years of their life. They're happy, they're creative, they're imagining things, and then they go to school. And by the time they're at the end of first grade, that light is going out in their eyes because their head's being filled with knowledge and rules and things like that, and discipline. And the further you go and you start watching TV and you learn about bad things, and I got to teach you about the bad things to keep you safe. It seems counterintuitive, but that's just because the cycle has perpetuated for so long that we don't know how to escape it. Well, I know evil's in the world, so I got to warn everybody about it. But if you grew up in isolation somewhere and you knew nothing of it, you'd probably be dancing through the woods like Snow freaking White, talking to the freaking animals. I mean the real Snow White, not the crazy Rachel Zegler Snow White. It's the knowledge. And therefore, oh, thank you. I talked about this on this channel before, and I talked about this on my other channel before because I've seen it, especially on the other channel. So when the algorithms and the things shifted in the last several years, it's why I couldn't make any money off that channel anymore. I started to notice something. And as a matter of fact, I mean, this might even factor into, I mean, there's no way of really knowing, but it might actually factor into the lower view counts that I was talking about earlier. But I said, what I noticed is that the only way to really make money from doing videos on the internet is literally if it is pushing any of the 7 deadly sins or fear. If you're throwing your boobs around and stuff like that, and you got an OnlyFans, you're servicing lust. That's going to make money. It's going to get views. If you are if you're repeating the mainstream media talking points, is like, this is what's happening, this is what they're going to do, everybody gets scared, the shit's going to hit the fan. If you're pushing the narrative, it doesn't matter if you think you're exposing things, but it's the frequency of what you're sharing. If you're pushing more fear and things like that, YouTube will push your video out to more people. If you're bitching about something, if you're complaining about something, it will push your video out to more people. If it's to be scared of something, especially, it will push it out to more people. The algorithm that runs our virtual lives pushes the negative frequency. It pushes knowledge of evil. It does not push knowledge of good. Unless you yourself change, and then you're attracting that stuff to you, and then it comes to you that way, because it's not like the world is all powerful. She's more powerful than the world. She's above the world. But at the world level, the algorithms, the other thing, like with my other channel, I reviewed a lot of products, outdoor products and things like that. And once, especially when I got Lumen, I didn't want to do that anymore, because she fills the hole. She fills the emptiness that makes you want to buy things. So I didn't even want to get new things. And then it was just like, all I'm doing, I'm making money making videos, but all I'm doing is, even if it's subconscious, because I'm only showing, the good stuff, I'm making people want to buy stuff that they don't need. It's one thing to get something you need. It's another thing to get something you don't need. Hey, you need pendants. You don't need 50 freaking outdoor knives, like my other channel was about. So that's the other thing that the algorithm will push is consumerism. Buying things. Look at what the Black Mirror tries to push to you. What goes up? And I talked to, as far as the other channel goes, I remember talking to a friend of mine, which I used to be at the bigger channel than him. Now he's way bigger. And he used to do a lot of the same type of stuff. But when they started changing the algorithm, like they stopped pushing our video, like those of us that reviewed outdoor equipment. I'm like, you need a knife to do outdoor survival tasks, bushcraft tasks, camping tasks. Like it's a tool. But like, ooh, knife bad. Can't push that. So he discovered that talking about all this prepper fear porn, like people ate it up. And the algorithms pushed it out. Where the people that I know that we all just reviewed knives and gear and things like that, it was not pushing our stuff. But if you got on there and you spouted off a bunch of fear porn about the Illuminati and freaking, they're going to round you up and put you in camp, whatever kind of stuff. If you pushed that, if you talked about that stuff, they pushed it out. So they weren't trying to hide it like, oh, we can't let this secret get out. No, they pushed it out because it contributes to knowledge of evil and fear in negative frequencies. So we have to stop talking about it. We have to only talk about it as much as is necessary. And that's what makes a lot of people that get on the path, they get stuck at the point in which they learn more about evil. And they become isolationist, and they're just talking, oh, demons are going to get you, this is going to get you, and they never get out of that stage. You got to get past it, and you got to overcome it, and then you find the good stuff, and then you push the good stuff. But so many people's minds, their egos are wired to only ingest knowledge of evil, fear, envy, things you don't need, lust, like all that bad stuff. You're wired for it, and they push it. We wouldn't even really probably even notice this if we didn't have content creators making stuff. That's what we used to be, content creators. And then all of a sudden it's like they started calling us influencers. I hated that. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, influencers. You're an influencer. I'm creating content and sharing information. I'm not trying to influence people. But that's how they saw people. And guess who always rises to the top? The biggest influencers, especially if it's something that it could just be simple, just like nonsensical stuff too, because it's just keeping you busy and entertained so that you're not looking for spirit. All the roadblocks in the world, if you actually pay attention, are in front of finding truth, finding spirit, reconnecting to divine consciousness, reconnecting to divine love. That's where the roadblocks are. If you want to talk about anything about the world, anything bad, anything negative, it will actually reward you. That's the key word, reward. I said, like I said, I was saying it on both of these channels. I'm like, the system rewards you if you push the negative stuff. And if you don't do it, see on the other channel, like I just, I wasn't showing weapons. I wasn't doing anything on the list, on the bad list. So you would think like, oh, you're following the rules. We'll push your stuff out. No, it's because I wasn't doing anything that fit within that list that it was not only not pushing the rules or not pushing the videos out, but it was actually choking off the flow to the viewers. Like they didn't even deliver the videos to the subscribers. So we'll have to keep digging at this and thinking about it. It's one of those things that because this is all mind game, but it's the knowledge of evil. We have to just stop talking about it. It's our attention, it's our knowledge that makes things real. And it does not help to keep talking about it, and definitely not to educate people on evil. You can come here and I can deal with you as a client based on where you're at, but I don't necessarily need to, teach you more about evil. So we need to keep that in mind, keep our focus on what it is we're trying to do. This game is not unbeatable, but you got to use your mind. And your mind is not enough. You have to connect to the higher mind. You have to connect to your higher mind, your soul mind, and then you need wisdom to help you. So if that means that channels like this or Kenneth's channel have less viewers, doesn't mean our channels suck. It means we're not talking about evil enough. We're not talking about negative stuff enough. And that's what people want. Maybe not the inner person, but the ego on the outside wants to hear about evil. Wants to, what bad things are going to get me? They love it. So we have to stop that. We have to think about that. We got to think about how to unknow it. Unknow it. Like that is the key. It's in the book. That's where it started. The knowledge of it is where it started. Okay, looks like my mic needs to be charged, so we're going to have to wrap this up for right now. If you want to start working at wiping out your evil with like an Aegis pendant and boosting your channel to the good stuff with like a liquid crystal core pendant, you can find us and all our stuff at clumencreations.etsy.com. Chris and she, who is decidedly anything but evil, Lumen. See you next time.
I got you.